Welcome, everybody, to touring the AFC South again. We're going to be talking today with a NFL Hall of Famer, five-time Canadian Football League champion, Mr. Warren Moon. How you doing tonight?
I'm great, Mike. How you doing, my man? We got another football season here any minute.
Right. It's right around the corner. And of course, with any team in any sport, the most important position, especially in this day and time, is the quarterback. So, the way they take care of the football, the way they make plays, it leads to much of the success of the team. So we're gonna, talk about the AFC South's quarterbacks and just have a few questions on that. But first, I did catch the tweet you put out about the Houston Oilers uniforms and the throwbacks. So I wanted to ask you, outside of the Oilers uniforms, which other throwback uniforms would you like to see?
Wow, there's a lot of classic uniforms back from the day, but I think I want to see the orange uniforms of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back when they were wearing those like orange sickle uniforms.
Yeah, the creamsicle.
They were all orange with the white helmet and the orange swashbuckler on them. I think they're going to be able to bring those back when those helmets are able to be worn in the jersey. It won't be till next season. It's not this season. It won't be till next season. But that's one of the ones I'd like to see. Is one of the ones coming back.
I actually thought you might say a Seattle uniform potentially, or I thought that one might be in there too potentially.
Potentially, yeah. You asked for one. That would be the one that I would want to see, only because those things were so bright and their teams were so bad back in the years when those uniforms were so bright. I think at one point they lost 27 games in a row or something like that back in their early existence. And they had these bright orange uniforms. I know they just had to feel like crap every time they went out in those uniforms and got beat every week.
Yeah, those uniforms might be one to see, but yeah, definitely don't want to see those teams.
No.
So, and definitely, before I get into the questions about the AFC South quarterbacks, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about you and some things about your career. For those in the younger generation who aren't aware, Warren Moon is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, in my opinion. You can do everything.
I appreciate that.
But unfortunately, you didn't start in the NFL. You started in the CFL.
Yeah.
So what was the frame of mind going into the CFL when you believed you should have been in the NFL to start with?
I looked at it as like a bittersweet situation for me. It was sweet because I was getting an opportunity to play the position that I wanted to play, where the NFL, a lot of teams probably weren't going to give me that opportunity to play quarterback. And then it was bitter because here is another country that's going to accept me as a quarterback, but my own country and my own league doesn't want to accept me as a quarterback. And as a kid growing up, I had a dream that turned into a goal to play in the National Football League. And all of a sudden, when you see that goal will not be able to be accomplished only because somebody doesn't believe in your ability or doesn't want to give you a chance to show what your ability is, it was pretty bitter. So, like I said, I went up to Canada with a bittersweet feeling that here I am getting an opportunity to play the position I want, but I'm not going to be able to play it where I want.
Gotcha. Well, you definitely took out the frustrations on the rest of the Canadian Football League. That's for sure.
Yeah, I had an extra grind, and I also, kind of wanted to prove, not only to the Canadian Football League, but to the National Football League and to myself that I could play professional quarterback. Because, again, there were a lot of people saying that I couldn't, just like there's a lot of guys like as recently now as Lamar Jackson. When he came out of college, people saying that he should have switched positions, and we've seen what he's done. He's already been an MVP in this league. Or when Cam Newton came out of Auburn, people were saying he should switch to tight end or all these different things, and we see what he's done. He was an MVP and took a team to a Super Bowl. So you just can't go by what everybody says. You have to have great belief in who you are and what you think that you can do. And fortunately, the times have changed a lot over the last 20, 25 years, where now these African-American quarterbacks are getting opportunities to show what they can do, and they're making the most of it by doing exactly what they think they can.
Gotcha. Now, let's get to your career about the Houston Oilers. Can you describe those times in the AFC? It was AFC Central, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the run and shoot offense.
Yeah.
Can you describe those times?
They were fun times in that division. That division was a very physical division. You know, we had Pittsburgh in that division. We had Cincinnati, who was very good at that time in that division. You know, went to a Super Bowl one of the years that I was in the division. And then we also had the Cleveland Browns, who were tough as nails and went to a couple of AFC Championship games. And they ended up, you know, having the drive against them with Denver, and then the fumble that was in the other playoff game. So we had some really good teams in our division, and we used to beat each other up all season long. And there were many times two teams from our division would go into the playoffs. So we were one of the better divisions, and definitely in the AFC, but probably in all of football, because we always had two representatives going into the playoffs.
Gotcha. Now, with that team and how explosive you all were offensively, what kind of damage do you think you all could have did in this era of football?
Yeah, it'd be scary because, you know, the game, even though we were more wide open back then, you still had the rules in place where you could be physical with the receivers and different things that you can't do today. The way the rules now are that are so laxed for the passing game, where you can't be physical with the receivers, you can't make big hits over the middle anymore. The quarterback is being protected like he's a glass doll back there now, and then the rules are just wide open for the game to have more scoring, more yards passing, and you're seeing it with these quarterbacks. If you don't throw for 4,000 yards now, you're considered not having a good year. Where back when I played, if you threw for 4,000 yards, you were considered to have a good season. So, yeah, it would be scary if we were running the run and shoot right now with today's rules. With that type of offense, because it was pretty explosive.
I could just imagine now. Wow. You know, with the weapons on that team, I mean, wow.
A lot of speed.
Definitely. Now, you know, we're going to talk about the newer version of the Houston Oilers, which, of course, is now the Tennessee Titans since they moved here from Houston. Yeah. Talk about the AFC South and dive into that a little bit. Now, they've got themselves a talented wide receiver in their own right in Julio Jones this offseason to join AJ Brown. Now, with the running game they have and how, you know, everything's set up there, how do you think, you know, how much do you think is on Ryan Tannehill to make plays in the passing game and expand that area of the offense for the Titans?
Well, I think Ryan has done a great job since he's come into Tennessee as their quarterback. You know, he was kind of left for dead in Miami, but the Titans saw something in him and brought him in because he was still a really good athlete and still could throw the football. Sometimes you just need a change of address and different scenery and a new kind of boost of confidence. And I think he got that when he came to Tennessee. And he's in an offense that really takes advantage of his strengths, being able to play action pass, being able to throw the ball on the move because he's a really good athlete that way. He can make some things happen with his legs. And then he's got the best running back in football right now as far as a pure runner behind him that really takes a lot of pressure off of him as a quarterback as far as the coverages that he's going to see in the back end. Because when you have a Derrick Henry, you better have 7-8 guys in the box at all times, or he's going to run the ball down your throat. So that kind of dictates what the coverage is going to be back there for the quarterback. It eliminates a lot of things because of you having that type of running back there. So it makes his job, Ryan Tannehill, a little bit easier. And then if you have explosive receivers on the outside, that tends to make more explosive throws down the field on those play-action passes because you get everybody sucking up, whether it's the linebackers and you throw balls behind them, or whether it's the safeties who suck up on those play-action passes too. And next thing you know, A.J. Brown or a Julio Jones is behind those guys or has single coverage on the outside. So it's a great situation for Ryan Tannehill to be in with all those weapons on that offense. and then they've done a nice job of keeping their offensive line solid as well, and that's a key.
Gotcha. Now, with Ryan Tannehill had 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions last season. Do you see him improving upon those numbers this season or taking a step back?
I think he can. I think a lot of it has to do with who their tight end is going to be because was it Jonnu Smith?
Yes.
Yes, he was a very good tight end for them. And in a play action passing game, especially in the red zone, the tight end can be very important down there for making touchdowns because he can get behind those linebackers on those fakes and get those quick balls for touchdowns. So whoever their tight end is that's going to replace him, that's going to be important as far as how many touchdown passes he might have down the field because the tight end is going to play a big part in that, especially when they get in the red zone.
Gotcha. It's definitely going to be an interesting year watching the Titans with the additional weapon of Julio Jones, but the subtraction of Jonnu Smith. It's definitely going to be interesting, and it's going to be one thing to watch. And another team that's definitely going to be to watch with a quarterback is Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, the Colts traded for him this offseason, and a lot was made out of that. The season before they traded for Buckner from the 49ers for the defensive line. Now they went and got a quarterback. What do you think of that addition to that offense this year?
Well, I thought Phillip Rivers did a really nice job last year, but he's limited as far as what you can do with him athletically because he's 38 years old. He's never been a really mobile guy. So I think the way the game is going today, you need to have a quarterback who's a little bit more mobile, and I think that's what Carson Wentz brings. But I think more importantly for Carson Wentz, he's coming out of a situation in Philadelphia that got kind of toxic towards the end as far as the way he was looked at by his teammates in the locker room, by the way he was looked at the fan base, and by the way he was looked at by their organization. So they were able to make that switch, and he's going to a coach in Frank Reich where he had the most success he's had as a quarterback when Frank was there as their offensive coordinator. So hopefully, again, like I talked about with Ryan Tannehill, sometimes you need a change of address, a change of scenery, and be around something that's more familiar to you. And I think Frank Reich will get the most and the best out of Carson Wentz, and they'll be able to do some other things besides just drop back and throw the ball like they were doing with Phillip Rivers. They can now run some read option type things. They can now run some of those types of RPO type passes and things like that Carson Wentz is good at. That he was doing in college and with Philadelphia. And Frank knows him as well as anybody and knows the things that work best for him. And those are the things he'll incorporate into the offense.
All right. Now, the Colts are set up to be very successful. They have a strong defense more than likely again this year. They have a running game. But one thing they didn't do this all season is really add to the wide receiver crew. They brought back T.Y. Hilton, but didn't really add a ton of players there. Do you think they have enough weapons in the passing game to be dangerous this year?
Well, I know the young kid from USC is going to be better in his second year.
Pittman Jr., yeah.
Pittman. Receivers always make a big improvement in their second year. The biggest question is whether T.Y. can stay healthy the whole season. He's been banged up off and on the last few years. He's not the biggest receiver in the world, so that's something you wish was different, but he's been very effective for them, but he's also missed a lot of time because of injury. So if he can stay injury-free this year, and then with Pittman's development and some of the other receivers they have on their roster, I think they can be explosive offensively, but they added one more legitimate receiver on the outside.
Gotcha. Okay. Now we're going to go to a team that hasn't necessarily been great this offseason. That would be the Houston Texans. Now with the Houston Texans, of course, the quarterback position, Brown Watson, his issues going on there. The signing of Tyrod, in the offseason in the drafting of Davis Mills, among other quarterbacks. Now, taking Watson out of the equation, do you think the Texans go with Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback there? And for how long do you think Mills will be sitting there before they kind of put him in? He's their first pick of 2021 draft.
Yeah, I think Tyrod is going to be the guy that starts the season out for them, no question about it. And Tyrod has done a great job wherever he's been, whether it was in Buffalo, whether it was in San Diego, even in Baltimore, where he was the backup. Whatever he got on the field and played, he was always good. So he's gonna be solid for them. He was also solid in Cleveland when he was there. I don't think he's their long range plan, but he's definitely going to be the guy that's going to get them started this year. Davis Mills is a guy that didn't play a lot of college football, so I don't think he's ready to play in the NFL right now. So I think they're going to be slow on that process. If he plays at all this season, it'll probably be later in the year. But I don't think they would be upset if he didn't play at all his first year, just because he hasn't had a lot of snaps even at the college level. The big thing with Tyrod is, can he stay healthy? Because he got hurt last year in the second game of the year, and it wasn't his fault, but it still was an injury, and it allowed Justin Herbert to play and play well, and he never got his job back. So this is another opportunity for Tyrod to get a chance to play, and hopefully he'll make the most of that opportunity.
All right. Now we've addressed the question there. We've seen Deshaun Watson running for his life behind that offense. They added a starting center, Justin Britt, from Seattle Seahawks, and starting offensive tackle Marcus Cannon they acquired from the Patriots. With whatever quarterback starting for them, do you see them having good protection for the quarterback?
I think so. I think you've got Larry Tunsil at left tackle. You're going to be solid there. And then you've got, like you said, Marcus Cannon at the right tackle. So you're going to be solid on those two tackles. And then Justin Britt comes in from Seattle, where he was a very solid center until he got hurt. But I think in the most important positions, the two tackles and then your center, you're going to be pretty solid. Now it's just a matter of those guards being solid as well. I think they'll be much better offensive line-wise than they were last year. And I think, Tyrod's going to need a little bit more of that. Some of that has to do with, when you have a quarterback like Deshaun or like a Russell Wilson, those guys like to hang on to the football a lot longer because they feel like they can make plays all the time. And they'll try and escape and make things happen outside the pocket. Well, sometimes you open yourself up for a little bit more punishment when you do hold on to the football. So some of that is on the offensive line. Some of that is on the quarterback. Now, I don't think Tyrod's probably going to take as many chances as maybe Deshaun would or Russell Wilson would. He'll get the ball out of his hands a little bit faster, and that'll take a little bit less wear and tear off of him.
All right. Yeah. It might be a long season in Houston.
It could be a long season because if you don't have a good quarterback, a top-notch quarterback, it's going to be tough. And that team, they lost not only their quarterback, who was one of the better ones in the league, but they lost some skill position guys as well. And those guys are hard to replace. But hopefully they'll have a solid season. If they could be somewhere around 8-8, that'd be great. But it doesn't look like it's trending that way just because of what they've lost this past offseason. As far J.J. Watt's not there anymore. They lost some great leadership out of their locker room as well as talent.
Definitely. And last but certainly, the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's a lot of hope heaped upon the shoulders of in 2021 one overall pick, Trevor Lawrence. How do you see him performing under the pressure of all expectations?
I think because he comes out of a high-level system program in Clemson. He had a lot of expectations put on him when he came out of high school. He's always been a guy that's had a lot of eyeballs on him ever since high school, and he's always risen to the occasion. So I don't think it'll be much different him going into the NFL. I don't think they're a team that's going to be a playoff team, but I think he's going to be a guy that's going to continue to keep improving. Jacksonville's roster isn't as bad as what you think they are. So, their offensive line is decent. They have a really good running back from last year. They've got some good receivers on the outside. So this is a team that has a chance to do some things offensively. And I think, after he gets his feet wet a little bit, he's going to have a pretty good season in his rookie year if he can stay healthy.
Gotcha. Now, if you had a crystal ball, what would you imagine his numbers looking like this upcoming season?
Well, I think because they're going to be behind in a lot of their football games, he's probably going to throw the ball more than they would probably want him to, because they would love to be balanced. Just knowing, their head coach the way he's coached in college, and that he wants to stay as balanced as he can. That's Urban Meyer, but I think he's going to throw anywhere between 3,500 and 4,000 yards this season, and probably around, 23 to 27 touchdowns, somewhere in that area. I think he'll have a pretty decent season for his rookie year, and they probably won't win as many games, but I think they'll have a lot to look forward to as far as the future is concerned, and it'll be a young football team that'll be growing together.
All right. One question for you. If you had one quarterback in this division to win one game, who would it be?
It would be, if he was playing this year, it'd be Deshaun Watson. I'd love to have the ball in his hands because he can make a lot of things happen. He has tremendous confidence, and if you've ever saw him play in college, that's when he played his best, is in the biggest games at the biggest times. You even look at him since he's been in the National Football League. They had Kansas City down by 24 points early in that ball game in the playoffs. They ended up losing, but it wasn't because the quarterback, wasn't playing well. So he would be the guy that I would want the ball in my hands if he's the guy playing. If not, I would probably say, Ryan Tannehill, because he's had the most success of all the other guys since he's been in the division. Carson Wentz is new to the division. He's coming off of a subpar season or a couple of subpar seasons, and then the young guy in Jacksonville, he hasn't done it yet at this level. So I'd have to go with Ryan Tannehill because of the way he's played the last couple of years.
Gotcha. I want to thank you for your time tonight, Mr. Moon. I mean, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Well, thanks for having me on, Mike. I appreciate it, man. And I'm sure I'll talk to you as the season gets going and as we get deeper into it all. I'm coming down to Tennessee into Nashville. We're having a reunion, Oiler reunion, believe it or not. It hasn't been announced yet. It hasn't been announced yet, I don't believe, but it's going to be the weekend of September 26th. And I'm looking forward to coming down that weekend and seeing everybody.
Well, please let me know. I would love to come see all of y'all back again.
All righty. You take care of yourself, my man.
All right. You do the same. Warren Moon on touring with the AFC South, breaking down the AFC South quarterbacks and giving us a little bit of his career as well. Thank you again.
All right, my brother. You take care of yourself.
All right.